Hello and welcome this beautiful 7th of May. I'd like to consider the word rebound. Now, most of you will know the word in the sense of relationships, where a relationship ends. There seems to be a void, so to fill that void, you may get involved with someone else just to fill that gap, and often it doesn't end very well, shall we say. But the word rebound, in many ways it perfectly describes what this reality is. Let's have a look at the word bound, for example. You can be bound for somewhere, the direction you are heading. You can bounce back, is another saying, when you hit rock bottom and then rise again, as it were. But you can also be bound, as in tied up, tied to something. So if you're bound, say for example, into looking and trying to get to the bottom of mud floods, you may find yourself tied up in that in a very big way, mentally. But the word rebound, if we think in terms of the ball in a pinball machine, it bounces off something and so on. But what about in a wider context? Consider if you have a young child, for example, in a cot, maybe up to the age of 2 or 3, and some of you as parents have probably got one of these devices. That is something that projects up onto the ceiling of the child's room a cartoon crescent moon with a smiling face and stars that seem to traverse the ceiling. And of course it could be seen that that is system programming and conditioning to consider what is up there. But what about the actual mechanism of it? Consider you have a source, and it's always important to check sources. So the source is a light that is projected up onto the ceiling, and you get the bounce back visually in the reflection that your eyes see on what is on that ceiling. So you'll see these crescent moons with smiley faces and so on. Consider also why we have soles on the bottoms of our feet. We often talk about souls. We talk about it, especially in the metaphysical and in spiritual context. We talk about reflection and reflecting upon things. What is the world reflecting to us? If you look up there, you may wonder what is behind that blue sky. And this brings in the topic of what are called solar flares, these M-class and X-class flares. I'll get the word right in a minute. And how that can impact us. Only today in conversation, somebody said that they were feeling all their joints were aching. Well, if you consider, we're basically like electrical beings. We're like components on a circuit board. If you look at most circuit boards, you'll find predominantly they are either green or brown, earthy colours. And components on a circuit board are attached by solder. There's a slang term for the legs that's being referred to as pins. So effectively, you are a component on a circuit board that makes contact through your soles and through your pins, i.e. your legs. There is nothing up there. Effectively, what is happening below the ground somewhere, there are different energies, different frequencies that are being broadcast upwards onto what you would consider to be the sky, or what some of you would call the firmament. And of course you get the bounce back, the reflection. And just like a reflection in the mirror, the left and right gets reversed. Hence, in this reality, some of you have often commented, or you feel that this world is upside down, inside out, or seeming to go backwards. This is also reflected in what is called retrogrades with some of these wandering stars, also known as planets. But they all give off a frequency. Unlike the reflection in a mirror that is within the range of the visual of human sight, the frequencies are very much like Wi-Fi signals or broadcasts, radio transmissions and such like. And they're not detectable to the five senses directly, but you feel the effects. So what this reality really is just a bounce back of frequencies, of vibrations. Hence, the astrology is another example. It reflects the present situation. Of course, you have free will whether you take the advice of the interpretation from the tarot card reader, but in all cases, go with what resonates inside you. So, yes, you have this sort of rebound effect. One moment, there's a motorbike coming. Okay, we'll continue. So if we take the word bound and rebound, so you're bound for somewhere, a destination, either mentally or physically, and then the return is the rebound, the coming back. I believe it was Jordan Maxwell that highlighted in Genesis, it says about mankind to go out and replenish the earth. In that is a huge clue that it wasn't the first time at all. It's a reset. Notice the common denominator with all these things is the RE, the re, or the ray. So effectively, what you've got when you look up at the sky, particularly at night, you have these lights, but they are giving off a frequency that interacts with us. We are effectively like a radio that is taking in a broadcast, and then from that we are transmitting out. So the word trans, it's a word that's often talked in many connotations in the present day. There's such words like transcend. So consider those incoming energies, how they've been projected up from below the ground and they bounce back. So things become reversed and flipped over. A perfect example of this would be industrial farming, and how that is so much on an opposite polarity with nature, doing everything backwards. That's just one example. I don't feel I need to mention any others. I think you get the picture from that, and you can look around the world and see that. But consider that everything external of you, that is your outer space, because it is outside of you and it is space. We could consider everything to follow the pattern of the atom. So you have a 99.99% nothingness and just a solid part in the middle. That is most likely what this earth is. But what do you consider as earth? What is your conception of earth? If someone mentions the world or the earth, do you just consider the ground? Which is a beautiful thing, as I've got these lovely wild, I don't know if you can see them very well here, got these beautiful wildflowers, and you can probably hear the birds and the bees in the background. Now I've lost my train of thought. That's the way it goes. So we just need to reflect. That's it. It's come back now. So everything external of you is a reflection So, for example, when you're faced with something or someone that you would perceive as an adversary, rather than react, far better to reflect and then respond, but ask yourself, this situation that I find myself in, where I have someone that I consider to be an adversary that maybe has a different point of view, what is the lesson in it for me? What is being reflected back to me? To change anything in your world, your individual worlds within this world, requires reflection, requires that internal weighing up of things, that reflection on things. Because all these reflections are just to guide you. There are signs in everything. Some are not so easy to see. It just depends on your level of perception. But it is certainly something of great benefit to not react to anything. Even this is reflected when there is an emergency. When you emerge and see, you don't get a reactionary unit, you may get an ambulance come out or a paramedic, and that would be called a response unit, not a reaction unit. There are clues in everything. So effectively what you have above you that's behind that blue sky is just basically a firmament or a dome, which acts just like a mirror, but in frequency. But this is a conversation I had a little while ago, and it's a conversation I've had several times before with people, and it's something I have experienced and something other people have also experienced. When you change your vibration inside yourself, there comes a point where you'll get a certain subset of people that are in that very low vibrational state will walk past you as if you're not there, like a ghost. And this, I feel, is also a good indication of how things are going to develop. When we talk about going into a new earth, consider that there is a broadcast that is going up and bouncing back, that is interacting with your frequency that you are attuned to. So when you change internally how you feel and interact with this reality, you will effectively ghost out and people won't see you. And I feel this is how this new earth will come about. There is nothing to fear, there is nothing to fight against. The only thing that you are fighting against, really, is your lower self and what you believe is possible and what you believe is impossible, which I've explained before is just a conflation of I am possible. So ideally, it is following that pattern that is suggested, connected with Jupiter, about expansion. So whilst you have a physical body in which you reside, your avatar, if you can lift your spirits, so effectively you are lifting your vibration, you're expanding yourself, you change your frequency. If we think of it in terms of a radio on very high frequency, the VHF, sorry, the ultra high frequency, or the frequency modulation is another label for it. And it's roughly about 87.5 to 108 on most radios. So whilst there is a broadcast within that band, there are many frequencies, and therefore you can have multiple radio stations, multiple broadcasts within that range that have a completely different world than another broadcast from another radio station. For argument's sake, we say one is on 90.1 and another one is on 105. Is there any interaction between them? The answer is no. So consider that in terms of frequencies that we feel and how we can transmute and change things. It is very true. If you change the world inside yourself, the external world will change around you. Most noticeable when you start feeling this higher vibration and you import that and make it part of your being. Not saying this is easy, it takes practice until it becomes second nature. But what you'll find is you will start interacting with a different subset of people. You'll find, and I'm sure most of you are fully aware of this, that this is often talked about when you're talking about what is referred to as your 3D physical family, and how they are on a very different wavelength. So you turn to maybe a group on Facebook that you'll get into conversations and things with people who are on a similar frequency to yourself. We're basically magnetic anyway. So what we broadcast out is also being bounced back as a reflection, and you'll come across a more cordial, a more transcendent frequency of people that you can interact with, because it is all an interactive realm after all. So hopefully that has given you a new perspective, or maybe it's even given you confirmation of something you may have thought about or something you feel. And on a final note, as a reminder, and there's a word called Dapper, which you may hear the expression, "oh, you look really dapper," referring to how you look in clothing and things. But how would you like to feel dapper? And what I mean by dapper is depression, anxiety, panic attacks, paranoia, energy resolved. So if you're struggling and finding it difficult to get yourself on a more conducive frequency, then that is the time that I invite you to come and talk to me, because I can guarantee you, whatever it is, whatever your circumstances, it is purely down to perspective, and it is something I can help change for you, or help guide you to find a new perspective, so you're not finding life such a struggle as it may appear at this present time. So the invitation is there. I'm not asking a fortune, it's just donation only, €5, $5 or £5 or more if you can afford it. But if you can't afford it, that's still not a barrier, because the door is open. I'm here to help you. And I feel you'll find that that would be 5 in whatever denomination well spent, because what it can unlock for you will be far greater. It is just a reciprocal exchange, a token exchange of energy. It helps me in this daily life, but more importantly, it'll open new doors for you, so you won't be on the rebound like that pinball being bounced from pillar to post. Another big clue about this reality, if you consider a lot of the computer games, if you do not take control of the character in the game, i.e. your higher self interacting with your lower self, and that character just stays at on the screen and doesn't move, generally a lot of these games, the back scene will start scrolling, and if you do not take control of the character, the game will take control of the character. And I feel you can see that is also reflected if you don't do things for yourself and take responsibility for yourself. There is a system that is quite happy to do it for you and take you to somewhere you may not find as agreeable or as pleasant as you wish. There's a few things for you to ponder and reflect upon in this video, and If you wish me to clarify any further points, please do let me know. Leave a line in the comments, or you can contact me directly. Links are all in the description under this video. So I'm going to say love to you all on this beautiful, beautiful day here in the Algarve in Portugal. I know some of you haven't got such pleasant weather, and the other factor, of course, is some of you may not even like the hotter weather and prefer the colder climates. But again, that is the best thing you can do for yourself, if at all possible, is relocate to something that is far more agreeable to you. It works wonders. Personally, being in nature has soothed the soul, and I prefer the warmer weather anyway. So this has been an absolute blessing to take that step into the unknown and come to the Algarve. And if you have the means and you're curious about off-grid living, then you are welcome to come here for a couple of weeks to sample it. It would take a week to maybe adjust to the climate. You don't have to actually do anything. You could use this as a retreat, so you can just be in nature, sit under the fragrance of the orange or lemon trees, and you'll see what I mean. So there's plenty of options, plenty of invitations there for you. So I'm going to say love to you all until the next video. Thank you very much for listening.